it's good to remember every day that everybody just wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. And whatever anybody is doing, it's simply because that's what they're trying to achieve. And so when we can see things in that light again and again, then it stops the critical, judgmental mind. It stops the mind that thinks that other people are a pain in the neck when they have problems. It really opens our heart to having some patience and tolerance with them, and then seeing what we can do skillfully to help them, whatever their situation is. And when we think that everybody equally wants happiness and not suffering, that's also the very important first step on the way to cultivating bodhicitta. Because with bodhicitta we want to care equally about everybody and to be able to do what we can to eliminate their suffering and lead them to the state of Buddhahood where there is no more any possibility to experience misery. Remembering here that misery and suffering doesn't mean just that your body hurts, you're in a bad mood. It means the whole situation of being in cyclic existence. Let's cultivate that awareness, that motivation. Okay. So is everybody doing okay? Sorta. You know, it's funny sometimes about this point in the retreat, people start going, oh, when is this going to be over? You know, it's so long. And either that or you look and you say, oh, 3 more weeks, that's not very much at all. You know, I can waste a little time here and a little time there. But if you don't think of it in terms of a 3-month retreat, then 3 weeks is quite a long time to do retreat, isn't it? You know, I mean, if you're living your regular life and you're on full speed ahead, zooming here, zooming there, your mind completely discombobulated and stressed out, and then somebody says, oh, you can have 3 weeks of retreat, you would go, oh, wow, how fortunate, you know, 3 whole weeks. Yeah. So you have to, you know, put it all in perspective and really appreciate the opportunity that you have to do retreat. Yeah. Because it's always so funny at the end, people are like, oh, I just want to get back and do some work. And then, you know, you're out in the rest of the year and you're busy and it's like, why don't we have more retreat? And then retreat time comes and it's like, oh, looking at my mind again. Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, right. That's exactly it, isn't it? We're always dissatisfied. Yeah. So it's, I think quite important to remember the fortune that we have. Just to have the time, to look and think about things and do some more study and do more intensive practice. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, we were talking about the auxiliary precepts, especially we were on the ones that have to do with cultivating generosity, or should I say the ones that obstruct the cultivation of generosity. Okay? So, we've talked about 5 of them so far. Then I read them out of this book. Okay, so not making offerings to the 3 jewels every day with one's body, speech, and mind. Are you being more mindful of that now? Yeah. Acting out selfish thoughts of desire to gain material possessions or reputation. Well, let's skip that one. That one's really hard, isn't it? Very hard. Yeah, not respecting one's elders, those who've taken the Bodhisattva vows before you, or who, have more knowledge and experience of the Dharma. Not answering sincerely asked questions that one's capable of answering, being polite and courteous to people who ask things. Not accepting invitations from others out of anger, pride, or other negative thoughts. And now we're on number 6. Okay, so this one says in this book, not accepting gold. And here it says not accepting gifts of money, gold, or other precious substances that others offer to oneself. So they say gold because, in a culture without money, gold is something that's precious. But, for us, it would include definitely money, and any other kind of precious substances. And again, the point of this one is that we impinge on other people's ability to create merit by making offerings if we don't accept things. But there's a lot to think about here. So let's see what he says. The 6th secondary misdeed is not accepting gold or anything else that is offered to us. Okay, anything else that's offered to us. Clearly there's going to be some exceptions there. When you've eaten food and you're too full, you have to eat some more because it was offered, or somebody offers you a gun, do you have to accept it? So, we need to think here. Okay. Once again, the fault lies in not giving others the opportunity to be generous. The misdeed is associated with kleshas, with afflictions, when we refuse the gifts out of anger or animosity. It is dissociated from afflictions when we refuse them out of laziness or sloth. From our point of view, there is no fault in refusing the gift when we feel that accepting it would strengthen our attachment. Okay, so right there, that's something to think about, If somebody's giving us something and we feel like if we accept it, we're just going to get really attached to this thing, then refusing it is okay. And it might be very well if we refused it too, because anything that's going to increase our attachment is not going to be good for our practice, and therefore, by extension, for other living beings. Okay? Okay. Can you think of something that, if you accepted it, would increase your attachment? What? A bag of chips. Okay, what else? A new car? Yeah. Yeah, yeah. What else? A new computer? Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, what? Oh, money to come here again. I don't think that's attachment, If it was money to go on a vacation, that's something else. But if it's money to do Dharma, then I think it's different. Okay. Yeah? Anything electronic, yeah. Yeah. Sometimes, the electronic goods are irresistible. And they make them that way, constantly upgrading it. So, it's like, I've got to get the newest whatever. Yeah. Okay. How about the rest of you? Some of you are so contemplative. I knew. Couldn't get it out. Yeah. Huh? Now that's your object of renunciation, the red socks. Okay. Then from others' point of view, it's better to refuse a gift in the following cases. Okay, so 1, we suspect that the donors might later regret having given it. Okay, so perhaps it's a married couple, and one person gives it, but the other partner doesn't know about it, and it might be inconvenient, and they might regret it afterwards, or where it's going to be somehow cause problems to somebody else later on. 2 is if we believe there's a case of mistaken identity and that we have been confused with another person for whom the gift was originally intended. Yeah. So somebody could, confuse us with somebody else. And, if we suspect that, then we need to stop and, really see who is the gift intended for. Yeah. I remember one time when I was in Singapore, somebody gave me an envelope with some money, and it was said something about, for free distribution of your books. And I had to stop and think, well, who is this really intended for? Is it intended for me? Well, actually, no, it's intended for the temple that produces the books for free distribution. So I gave it to them. Yeah. So, things like that can happen when the. What also happens? Sometimes if you're going as a representative of a monastery, somebody gives you an offering. Yeah, they may be thinking it's going to the monastery, but they give it to you, and you think, oh, it's mine. Yeah. So it's always good to clarify with the people. And that's why we have the rule that we do at the Abbey whenever you're acting as a member of the Abbey and somebody does that, because people don't always specify. They just make assumptions. And then 3 is we are afraid that the donors may be impoverished by their gifts because the donation is substantial. Okay, so somebody gives something really that's quite a lot, and we're afraid that they'll be impoverished. Yeah. I remember one time when I was in Italy, when I was leaving, one woman came, and I knew her, and she didn't have very much, and she wanted to give me something, so she wanted to give me her watch. And I didn't want to take her watch because I thought, she doesn't have very much money, and she wears watches, I don't. She'll need to go out and buy another one. And so I tried to refuse it, but she really, really wanted to give me something. Yeah. And so finally I accepted it, because she really wanted that. And then I said, and I would like to offer it back to you. So please accept it. Yeah. So sometimes you have to do it that way because somebody really, very sincerely wants to give. And even if it's going to be hard on them, so we might say, yes, I accept, and I offer back. Or, if they still say no, then we say, well, let's split it, And then I appeal to them. I need some good karma by making offering too, so let me offer, so part of it back to you. Okay. There are further exceptions in relationship to the substance, the item offered. So one, we suspect that the object has already been offered to one of the three jewels, or that it was donated to have Buddha statues made, Dharma books printed, or to provide for the Sangha. So if we think that the money was already given to the three gems, or it was destined for the three gems, then we should refuse it. Or make sure it gets to where it needs to be going. Two is we think that it might have been stolen or extorted from others, or obtained by harming them, killing, maiming, fining, or punishing people. Okay, so if we think that it was obtained in quite a bad way, then we should refuse it. I know Zopa Rinpoche is very, very strict about this thing of money that from selling Dharma items. And somebody came to Kopan with some fruit, but this person earns their money from selling Dharma items. And Rinpoche, he accepted it, but then he had them bury the fruit. Yeah, and not to, yeah. So other people aren't quite so strict. Or three, we think that accepting it might bring harm to the donors. For example, others may criticize them for offering, whatever it was they offered to us. And this misdeed is contrary to an aspect of the ethic of helping others. Okay, so let me tell you one story. This was many years ago, and Kyabje Sangha Rinpoche was in Los Angeles, and they wanted to take him to Disneyland, and I wanted to come with, but I had no money. Yeah, and so I kind of, let it be known among the various people, the disciples, that, oh, gee, I'd really like to go to Disneyland, and I don't have any money. I don't know how I said it. But anyway, at one point, somebody offered me money, and then I went, oh, my God, I can't take this. I had such a crummy motivation. Just really very selfish, yucky motivation. Yeah, I wanted to be a groupie, basically. And so as soon as that person offered it, I just realized what I was doing, and I said, no, I can't take it. Well, Geshe Gyaltsen, he's another one of my teachers, he was in the room at that time, and he said, what's going on? Why aren't you accepting it? And I told him, because I have a really horrible motivation, Geshe. And he said, but this person wants to give, so you need to change your motivation. Yeah. So, yeah. I wonder if I didn't have that regret, and my eyes were like, oh boy, now I get to go. I don't think he would have said that same thing, But it was because I think I had realized what I was doing. And he said, no, you should change your motivation and accept it. Anyway, we wound up not going. But, yeah, it was kind of something that was quite shocking to me. Oh, somebody wants to give something, and instead of just going, no, sometimes really for that person's benefit to say yes and make sure I have a good motivation. And if I can't quite get my motivation to where I want it to be, then, maybe accept it and give it away. Just a side thing about giving is whenever we give to somebody, we should genuinely give. Okay? So if we give, then it means it really belongs to the other person, and that means that they can do with it what they want to. Yeah? Because sometimes when we give something, then we really check up on it afterwards, and don't we? And like, oh, well, that was given by me, so are they taking good care of it? Oh, why you're not taking very good care of it? This was so precious to me. Why are you not treating that object right, I mean, I gave it to you, and you should love it and respect it as much as I did. Yeah, we have that, don't we? Yeah. Or, we give something, and then we ask the other person later, oh, how are you enjoying it? And we want them to say, oh, it's so nice, it's so wonderful, But then if they say, oh, I gave it away to so-and-so, then we feel like, you betrayed me. I gave you this precious thing, and you betrayed me by giving it away. But that just shows that in our mind, we're not freely giving a gift. Self-centered thought is infiltrating it somehow, and we're wanting something out of it, Or I gave you something, and now it's time for you to give me back something. Yeah? I'm getting upset with people who don't give us something back after we gave them something. Yeah? And so we might see there, too, that our generosity is a bit tainted. We want special regard. We want to be known as somebody. We want to be noticed or appreciated or given some special condition because we made a particular offering. Yeah? And so we have to be very careful about that because it lessens the merit we create from making the offering. And also we're setting ourselves up for a whole lot of grief. Yeah? But to really think, when we give something, it really belongs to the other person. Yeah? And if we're not really fully willing for it to belong to them, then we should really reconsider if if we want to give it. I remember one time in India with one of my teachers, I got some brocade. I wanted to make an offering, and I sewed some book covers, all my hand stitches. We didn't have any sewing machines or anything. Stitched the whole thing by hand and, went and offered the book covers. And had my interview, and then I left. And then another monk came to see my teacher afterwards, and when he came out, he was carrying the book covers. So my teacher had given them to him. And I just said, great, okay, they're getting used to create more merit. Yeah. Like the one fruitcake at Christmas that everybody gives to everybody else. Except you really have to have a good motivation if you give fruitcake, boy. I just realized, is it today or tomorrow that's Valentine's Day? Today. And I didn't get one Valentine. So I'm free. I'm finally free. I'm nobody's Valentine. Wow.
First time?
I think. I don't know. I don't always notice it if I got, I don't know, last year or the year before. But, finally free. No Valentines. Okay.
I'm thinking that it's perfect that we do the Bodhisattva spell on Valentine's Day.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is the best gift, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay. So anything on that one at all? Any? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or wanted to offer red envelopes that sort of like, oh, I can't accept that because I'm not worthy. But
Yeah, okay. So when you're in a culture where people have a lot of respect for the Sangha and they come and make you an offering, and especially when you're first ordained, you feel like, oh, I can't accept it, I'm not worthy, you know. And so that's in some way an afflicted state of mind too, because it's very centered on me. It's not thinking at all about here's somebody who wants to create merit and I just happen. It doesn't, they're giving to me isn't because I'm something special. You know, they're giving to the robes, they're giving to the precepts in the mental continuum. It has nothing to do with me. But we latch on to it as, oh, they're giving to me, but I'm unworthy, you know, and then it gets to be this internal conflict about it. So you really have to come back to the thing that really it has nothing to do with us. Yeah, if people make offering to you or don't make offering to you, it doesn't have anything to do with us. Because if they make offering, you know, because you're ordained, then they create merit and they generate faith, and that's something that is very virtuous in their mind, and we should let them do it. And if they look at us and say, who are you? I'm not giving you anything, then also that's something that reflects on their mind that they experience the karma of. And neither way does it have really anything to do with us. We just happen to be standing there. Yeah? And to really see that. And then to look and say, wow, here's somebody who has faith, who wants to make an offering. It's so beautiful that they have this virtuous mind. Yeah? And so you let them make the offering, and completely in your own heart you rejoice at the virtue they're creating by making the offering. You know, you don't look at it as, oh, I must be somebody special now, they gave me something. Yeah? No. It's, wow, somebody's creating virtue. That's really quite wonderful. And if you don't feel like it's something that you know, that you want to keep because you feel like you need to improve your practice, then give it away to somebody. Yeah, whatever they give. Mm-hmm.
Really amazing last year in Bodhisattva.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a session on non-duality,
Mm-hmm.
but because last time I was there as a layperson, I never noticed this, but this time people would go around with huge wads of bills, and they would give every monastic student site money. And so this one day I had my head down, and all of a sudden this money showed up on my lap, and I was like, and then these two Tibetan ladies sitting behind me watching me go like this. It was like so alarming at first. And I was like, wow, that's very kind. And then, you know, I gave it to the Buddha. But I was not prepared for that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. But you really see how beautiful their people's mind states are when they want to make an offering to the Sangha. You know? It's really quite beautiful. Yeah? And especially in that situation with the story that you're telling, where they don't know you, you know, you just happen to be sitting there doing your prayers or whatever. But, mm-hmm.
So when I came before I came here, so some people came to me and wanted to offer something so that I can come here and have no financial problems. And then even like there were two. One friend told me an email. She said, a friend of mine, I told her about you, and she's living in London, and she wants to support you too. So, like, and then it goes on. So more and more people with emails I was sent from London.
Yeah.
It's amazing because I had the wish to come here and get it in.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you had a very virtuous wish to come here and get ordained. So your friends wanted to support. And it's so beautiful when they then tell their friends, who you don't even know, but who also get excited and want to, you know, support something that is very virtuous.
Mm-hmm. I have a question that's just general, about like ownership and giving, and so when I do receive something that's a gift, or even get 5 things or whatever, I generally like don't want to keep it for myself, but want to give it to someone else. So like what? So then I feel like it's not really mine. It's like weird. It's like I don't really want to like consider it mine ever, but then it's like, but I have it, and I don't know if I like. I don't know what level of possessiveness to take of things. Like is it something to do at all? To like think of something as being your own, and because then if it's not, I don't think of it as my own. Then I'm like, okay, who can I give it to? It's always looking for the next person.
Yeah. So what's your question?
Is what kind of when dealing with possessions, of physical objects that are in our possession, what level of like mental ownership should we take?
Oh, okay. Okay, so when we have dealing with objects that are in our possession, what level of mental ownership should we have? As little as possible. Yeah? Because as soon as we attach the word mine to it, then a lot of things happen. Yeah. As soon as this becomes my tissue, then it's very, very different than if it's just a package of tissues. Yeah. My tissue means it's my tissue. Means it's not your tissue, and you better ask me for it. And I want to save it, even if I don't need it now, but your nose is running. If I give it to you, then I won't have it later when I need it. Yeah, so let's get you something else to wipe your nose, because I'm going to hoard my tissue, because it's mine. Yeah, so that's why when we do the mandala offering, okay, when we say, I'm giving everything to the Buddha, then we should really feel that way. Yeah, I'm giving everything. So now I've given it to the Buddha. It's only nominally under my care, which means I have a responsibility to take good care of it, but it doesn't permanently, inherently belong to me. Sometimes, if we don't call something mine, then we don't take good care of it. And that's also wrong, because I've really seen people that when it has to do with the Dharma Center's money or the temple's money or something, they'll spend it here and there anyway, but whereas they wouldn't spend their own money that way. And that's not right. If you're the representative of a charity organization of any sort, then, you should have the same thing of, this is under, people gave this out of faith. They want to see whatever charity you're doing, run properly, and so I have to use this property responsibly. Yeah. Okay. So ownership just basically means you have responsibility to take care of the thing, but it doesn't mean that you have to possess it. Because as soon as we start possessing it, then it gets very difficult. This is my blankie. Y'all have your blankie when you were little? What was the cartoon character that did that? Lioness, yeah. So, this is my blankie. And it's my blankie, and I'm not giving it away, even I'm 60 years old. And maybe I take my thumb out of my mouth, but this is my blankie. Yeah. And I've had it for 59 years and 9 months, and, I'm not giving it up now. Yeah. So we can get very, very attached to things. Yeah. And then that attachment just creates a lot of disturbance in our mind. Okay? So that's why in the mandala, if we think, it's already given away, yeah, then there's, when it's time to actually give it, the mind isn't so embroiled in it, But on the other hand, don't think I've given it away, therefore I can just use it any old way, without any respect for the object. No, we should take care of the things that are in our possession nominally. Mm-hmm.
Probably I will because I will give a therapy, but I have this dilemma from 1 year. Another venerable Something mentioned Bodhgaya, I remember, and I remember. In Bodhgaya, the people want to practice the generosity.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's like an industry. Well, I'm going to say to you the very fact. So at Bodhgaya, there are many people, many beggars,
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like in the list.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people that offers you to give them, if you say, they will send you rice, tea and bread
Mm-hmm.
for you to give them
Mm-hmm.
4 a.m. in the morning before the prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So the group of Mexicans that we were there last week, one of them became a friend with this person that offered the service,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like very reluctant. Is that word?
Reluctant?
No.
No.
Huh? Yeah.
Resistant. Uh-huh.
On one hand, I want them to have bread to raise.
Uh-huh.
But on the other hand, I will be like putting oil in this machine of praising with the suffering of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was an ola, and after that they would go to Salmat, where the
Right.
golden speakers were. And so at the end I went. But
Mm-hmm.
I was of course really giving, but with some that I was contributing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what you're bringing up is one of the perpetual problems we have in India of dealing with beggars. Yeah. Which is that, it looks like some people are beggars by profession. And when there's a big religious event in a certain place, they will go to that particular place and beg. And then often there's somebody there who, if you give that person money, then they will go out and buy, like you said, the bread and the tea and distribute it very early in the morning for the beggars. So on one hand, you want to give because you see that people are deformed or they're very poor or whatever. Usually in this cases where they travel, it's because they're handicapped in one way or another. But on the other hand, you feel like maybe I'm just reinforcing this whole thing. And especially when you hear that sometimes the beggars it's a really bad situation, but where there's all people who control the beggars, who take care of them in one sense, but then the beggars have to give them a certain cut of what they receive every day. Yeah, it's kind of like pimps for beggars. So you don't, you feel like, oh, I don't want to participate in that. But on the other hand, here are people who need. Yeah. So it's a really difficult situation. Really difficult. I can't say I have an answer to that. Yeah. I think, because on one hand, like you said, you feel like you want to give, and on the other hand, you feel like you're just contributing to a bad situation. Yeah. And then you think, well, the ideal thing to do would be like, let's start some kind of charity where these people could come and live and not have to beg and live like that. But then we can't drop our whole life to go and start a charity every time we see beggars in this condition, And then also too, sometimes the beggars, they don't want to stay in one place. They like to go from place to place. So I don't have a good answer for you. But I certainly understand the dilemma, because I felt that way many times myself. But there is something special when you're at Bodh Gaya, that makes you somehow just go beyond that. And I know when we had our program, Life as a Western Buddhist Nun, in 1996, we did that as a group, and we decided to offer lunch to all the beggars. And so one thing is you have to get them to sit down and line up, otherwise it's just total chaos. But I found it very beautiful because we personally offered the food to them. And for me, that was very, very meaningful, to be able to actually dish it up, or somebody dished it and gave it to me, and I was the one that actually gave it, you know. Yes, exactly. To look them in the eyes and make it a real gift and make it a real thing of respecting them. Because then it was not just giving them food, it was giving them human respect, yeah, which is often more important than the food. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, number 7 is, again, Chandragoma, not giving the Dharma to those who desire it. So the 7th secondary misdeed conflicts with the practice of generosity in the form of giving spiritual advice, that is, the Dharma. Of the 3 kinds of ethics, it is contrary to the ethic of helping living beings. It consists of declining to give spiritual teachings to those who request them. When the refusal to teach is motivated by anger, animosity, or jealousy, it is a misdeed associated with afflictions, and its consequences, therefore, are more serious. Jealousy might make us hesitate to share our knowledge with others from the fear that they would end up by enjoying higher status than we do thanks to their erudition. You know, so you don't want to teach somebody something because they're going to know it better than you or teach it better than you, and they'll get the respect and the offerings afterwards. You don't want to share. That's a really horrible mental state, thinking like that. Really dreadful. Okay. The misdeed is dissociated from afflictions when laziness or sloth inspires it. You know, somebody asks for teachings and you're just too lazy, you know. We are to share the Dharma that we possess when the request for it has been made properly and is founded in a sincere desire to learn and practice the teaching. Okay, so here I find it quite interesting. When the request for it is made properly, yeah, because I feel that a lot of times nowadays people don't know how to make a request properly. You know, the Dharma is just some thing, yeah. So, you know, let's just zip off an email and ask somebody if they can teach us something. You know, it might take, 10 minutes or it might take 10 days. But, just zip off an email, can you teach me this? Or, in other words, like asking for some instructions or something. But the mind really not being very respectful, yeah, in the process of asking, just, and you find that it makes a difference, when you get, when a center, like, sends a written request, yeah, then sometimes they really kind of, do it with the 7-limb prayer and all this, fancy language with that, the fancy language I can do without, yeah, but you see that at least they've taken the time to think about it and to make a very nice request. And then other people just kind of send an email, can you come here on such and such a date at this time and teach this? Yeah? And so there's very, very different ways of making a request. So I think it's nice to really think about the request. And sometimes it's fine to print out a letter, it's fine to use email, but if you use email, to make it a respectful request and not just, kind of dashing something off, on the way you're flying out the door. Or I've commented on it before, people want to take refuge, so they write me a note on the back side of, an old piece of paper, I want to take refuge. It's on some scrappy piece of paper. That's not the way to ask for refuge. Yeah, or I want to take Bodhisattva vows. Where's a scrap of paper and, that's torn here and torn there and the other side's printed on and, please give me Bodhisattva vows and, that's not the way to ask. Uh-huh.
I was reading the cookbook, that we print, and when I flipped it, the image of the Dalai Lama right there. Somebody used an old sheet, I guess, and printed. And I said, is this appropriate?
Yeah.
Dalai Lama upside down in bed.
Okay, yeah. So, to take care when you're asking about reusing paper for printing, if it like has His Holiness's image or some Dharma content on it or something like that. Yeah, you don't want to print recipes on the back of that kind of paper. Yeah. Yeah. So, if you're reusing it to print another Dharma thing, that's okay. Yeah, but to reuse it to print print a recipe, no. Okay. Uh-huh.
Mind is something about asking 3 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So the Buddhist, the usual thing is that somebody should ask 3 times for something. And I think that the reason for that is, well, it makes us exert some energy, So it pulls us out of our consumer mentality of, I want this, can you give it to me? Yeah? To, I have to request 3 times. And also, when you request 3 times, it shows that you're really earnest. Yeah, that you really mean it. Because if on the first time, you don't get an answer, then, well, how important is this to me? Is it important enough that I'm going to ask another time? Yeah. Nowadays, oftentimes that isn't followed. Yeah, because, but on certain things, it's good to do. It's good to do. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, but I think all the Buddhist traditions have this thing of, asking 3 times, and usually the first 2. Well, it depends what it is. If it's something minor, then you say yes. But if it's something major, they may just say, well, this, and, And then you have to see, is this something really important where I'm gonna ask again? Huh? Okay. So again, there are several exceptions to the rule. In relation to the basis or the subject ourselves, exceptions are made when we're ill or personally we do not know the material that we have been asked to teach. Okay, so if you're sick, it's fine to say no. And if you don't feel confident in your knowledge of the material, it's fine to say no. In fact, we should say no. If we don't know the material, we should not say yes, because that is only going to mislead and damage the other person. Yeah. So, and I see that in any kind of thing. If you don't know the answer to a question or you don't know something, you just say straight out, I don't know. Or you can say, I don't know, I'll check for you. Or this is my opinion, but I want to check it. Or really qualify if it's your opinion. Because I've really noticed that people remember the first thing that they hear about a certain topic. And sometimes you run across people who have heard something incorrect, and then when you tell them the correct version, they don't believe you. Yeah, because they heard it incorrectly. Either they misunderstood or whoever it was that said it incorrectly. So, we should, be careful about those kinds of things. That doesn't mean becoming so uptight that we don't say anything to anybody, because then, remember you have the story I told you about Lama Yeshe when I said, I can't leave that course, and he looked at me and he said, you're selfish. So you can't go to that extreme of, I don't know anything, or I'm so afraid of making a mistake, I can't say anything, that also is not correct. Okay? So this perpetual middle way. Okay. In relation to the purpose, there is no fault in refusing to give the teaching requested in any of these situations. 1, our refusal is better for the petitioners in the long run, even if it upsets them at first, for it makes them wonder what they have done wrong. Another possibility is that not immediately receiving the explanation reinforces their aspiration to it and stimulates them to practice even harder. Okay, so if you think that, somebody hasn't behaved correctly or that they're being very flippant in the way they're asking for whatever, if you say no, with the intention that this is to get them to think about their actions, then there's no fault in it. Okay? Or if you feel that not responding will just really increase their wish to have that. Yeah. And I know in my own case there's certain things I've requested, and and then I can really see, it's not that important, I'm not going to request again. But another thing is like, this is really important, I am going to request. Yeah. You see. Okay, then there's several exceptions in relation to the potential students. The first is the people making the request are not fit to receive the teaching because they have bad intentions. For example, their sole purpose in asking for the explanation is to then turn around and criticize us. Okay, so somebody asks you and they don't really want to learn the material, they just want to criticize you or criticize the teaching afterwards. So in that kind of case, it's fine to not give the teaching. 2 is the people making the request speak rudely, physically misbehave, and are generally disrespectful and bad-mannered. Okay, so again, if the people, they're requesting, but then you see them in teachings and they're lying down, and I've had to sometimes at teachings ask people, please sit up. Because it's very distracting when you're teaching and somebody's lying down and, they're like this. And, in India it's incredible. Because you get people who don't know anything about the Dharma, and so this kind of stuff will happen. Yeah, but people who are kind of rude and disrespectful, then you think, is it going to really make a difference to teach them this? If you feel that it will, then that's one thing. But if you feel that it won't, then, 3, the people lack the intelligence needed to understand a lengthy or complicated teaching, and by hearing one, run the risk of becoming discouraged, losing faith, and developing wrong views. Okay, so people don't really have the ability to understand it, and they could develop wrong views. So they may, ask you for a teaching on emptiness, or they may ask you for a teaching on Tantra or whatever, but if you give it that they'll develop wrong views because they don't really have maybe the intelligence, or I would think also the background. Yeah, I would think it's not specifically listed here, but I would think if somebody asks you for a teaching and they don't have the background to really understand it, and they could misunderstand it, like maybe somebody comes and says, I want to learn completion stage Tantra. And, for somebody who knows that, are they going to teach that to that person if they think that person is then going to go off and do those meditations? And it could be really quite damaging to the person because they don't have the background to be able to do that kind of practice. I remember Alex told me a story with Serka Rinpoche, and some brand new person kind of came one day and said, I want to learn Guru Samaja Tantra. Not just he had read it in a book or something like that, not really having any clue what it was. And it's like, kind of a very advanced practice. And remember, she said, okay, I'll teach you, but first you have to learn this and this. First learn this and then come back and then give them another thing and learn this and, And so he didn't say no. He said, yes, I will, but first you have to have the adequate preparation. Okay, so that's a skillful way to do it if somebody is asking for a teaching that is too advanced for them, at this particular moment. Next one is, we suspect that although the people would understand what we taught, they would not listen properly and would not give credence to the teaching. We fear that this would lead them to behave so badly and thereby create so much negative karma that in their next life they would be reborn in the lower realm. Okay, so if you're concerned that somebody might might not listen properly and might generate all sorts of wrong views, then again, it's fine not to give it. The next one is, although people who are asking for the teaching are themselves fit to hear it, we infer that once they have received it, they would in turn give it to others who are not qualified to listen to it, which would only do them harm. So somebody's trying to get a teaching, and then they're going to go off and teach it to somebody else, who isn't qualified. Yeah. I remember something regarding that. What was it? Oh, I remember on one of the tours with the monks, they had gone to one small town and done the medicine Buddha practice. So somebody from that town called me and wanted me to teach them the medicine Buddha practice so that they could teach it to all the other people there. And this is somebody who wasn't even Buddhist. So I said, no. That kind of, you need some more background, you need some more things, and, it's not just something that you come and learn and then you become a teacher and teach it to somebody else in that town. That's not, we don't go about things in that way. Yeah. Sometimes, I have a whole list of things that people have asked me to teach at one time or another. And sometimes it's just a thing of, when is there going to be time to do it? And choosing the proper time, and then, what's the thing that is best, for these people to hear at a certain time, because they may request one thing, but you think something else is better for them to hear. So, yeah. I have a little note on my computer from you to teach the hand mudras and the POA practice, and John wants me to teach how to set up an altar and to video it. And so, yeah, I have all these things in mind, and then, what do we do first? Do we not have this teaching so that we can do those? So that's what we have to live with. I just was thinking, one thing about the previous one of not accepting gold and so forth is to also look at what it is the person is giving you. If somebody's giving you something that's unsuitable, like a weapon or poison or, something like that, then definitely we shouldn't accept. Unless they're turning their weapon in because, they don't want to have it. In which case, I don't even want to touch the thing. I'd take them directly to the police and you give it to them, But, yeah, Or maybe somebody is trying to get off drugs and they pull out a whole bag of dope and give it to you. I don't know. I don't think I'd accept that one either. But I'd arrange. I'd say, let's put it down the toilet. I'm not the proper recipient. The toilet is, Yeah.
Sometimes Mexico say that there are people that accept that wash money.
Oh, laundered money. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That you never know where it comes. That it's money.
Yeah.
Yeah. You wash that money and then come back again and start clean.
So you're saying some people know that the money's been attained illegally? Not all the time. Okay. Yeah, if you don't know, then you don't know.
And it's having a problem in Mexico that someone buy a house, but then that house, the owner is from the South Carolina.
Oh.
They say, but I don't know who is the person that's going to buy because I don't know all the background.
Yeah.
In this moment,
Yeah.
difficult because you never know where the money comes from.
Right. Yeah.
It's only for the drugs because the money is money, but you don't know where they come from.
Yeah.
In Mexico.
Yeah. That's difficult. Yeah. You're saying there's a lot of crime and that somebody could give you some money. Maybe you're selling your house and they want to buy it and you don't know that it's drug money.
No, you don't know.
Yeah.
And now it's that person that buys the house is from the drug dealers or from that. They take your house. And you maybe can be in problem. But the thing is that you never know where the money comes.
Yeah. It's very difficult. Yeah. But here it's saying, if we think the money might have been obtained illegally, then better not to take it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she did ask, could you use it? And she said, no, I couldn't. And she was a little disappointed, but she also understood. So I didn't accept it. But I always wondered if it would have been better to just let her visit and
Okay. So somebody once came here and offered you a leather purse and said, is this something that you could use? And you said no, and you're wondering now if you should have accepted it and then given it away. I would have said because that person had the idea in their mind that maybe it wasn't a suitable gift, that it's completely fine that you said no. Yeah. In fact, it would have been very confusing if you had said yes, and then she found out later that it's not suitable to give leather. Okay? I had the situation one time when I was visiting a prison in Mexico, actually, in Morelia. And in the prison, they had a leather workshop. And the guys were making things. And one of the inmates wanted to give me a leather purse. Yeah, that one I accepted. Yeah, because he really wanted to give. He didn't know anything about Buddhism. He would have felt very hurt if I didn't accept. So I accepted, and then I gave it for something. I can't remember. I gave it to somebody or did something with it. Yeah. So, but if somebody has the idea that this may not be a suitable offering, then it's perfectly fine to refuse it. And you just say, thank you very much. I appreciate your good intention. Yeah, but it's not something I can accept. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, so this point is worth examining closely, for when we are asked to teach, give a lecture, or lead a study group, sometimes it is not easy to know how to respond. The above complete checklist will help us find the right answer. Okay. Of the 7 secondary misdeeds that concern the practice of generosity, 6 consist of failing to do something that we should do, and 1, the second, of doing something that we should not, maintaining our desire. Thus, misdeeds can arise from both action and inaction. Yeah? You see that most of them are actually not doing something that we should do. The great master Je Tsongkhapa, on the subject of maintaining thoughts of desire, said that the likelihood of finding ourselves in a situation where we feel a strong urge to act upon our desires is very high, and for that reason we often run the risk of committing this misdeed. Of the 7 misdeeds related to generosity, the second is therefore the one which could occur most easily. We need to be especially watchful of it, and from the outset resolve to guard ourselves from it. Given the numerous conditions needed to complete the other 6 misdeeds and all the exceptions to them, we are much less likely to commit them. True, isn't it? Knowing the secondary, that doesn't mean we could ignore them. Okay. Knowing the secondary misdeeds can greatly improve and facilitate our lives. When we discover the material, we may at first have the impression that the opposite is true. There is so much to learn about the precepts. I might think, oh, making my life so difficult. The topic is vast, and sometimes it seems that we will never be able to master it. But keeping in mind that they all concern very practical aspects of our lives will help. For example, we are invited for a cup of coffee or for lunch, or someone wants to offer us something, and we need to respond. Yeah? By studying the secondary precepts and familiarizing ourselves with them, we will no longer be in a quandary how to respond, nor will we need to constantly be running to others for advice, for we will be able to determine whether or not we should accept the invitation. Okay, so when you really know the precepts and think about them and refer to them when you need to make a decision, then you can, reach something yourself. Furthermore, based on our knowledge of the vows, without hesitation, we will be able to decide to accept or refuse a gift. Okay? I think in many of these situations, it's really difficult. Like, I was just thinking, like, let's say somebody came and said, I want to give you a diamond necklace, and you're a monastic. It's like, I have nothing to do with with a diamond ring or a necklace, But then if you said, oh, thank you very much, and I'll use it for when we fill the Buddha statues, I'll offer it. Yeah, then you could accept it in that way. Yeah. Otherwise, if you accept a diamond necklace for yourself or a diamond ring for yourself, then when other people come along and say, oh, I heard my friend gave you a diamond ring, but aren't you a monastic? Are you supposed to have those? Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, when it says that when out of laziness or sloth or forgetfulness, it's a misdeed not associated with afflictions. That doesn't mean that it's not an afflicted state of mind. When it says disassociated from afflictions in that context, it means that it's not like one of these powerful afflictions like conceit or anger, resentment. Okay? So it's still a misdeed. Yeah, and there's still afflicted states of mind, but it's not quite as heavy because what's going on in your mind isn't some strong thing. Yeah. Okay?